Hey, everybody. Tonight we are talking about why are we lying? Have you ever caught yourself telling a little lie? Something so small it barely felt like a lie at all? Maybe you said you were 5 minutes away when you hadn't even left yet, or told someone, I'm fine, when you really weren't sure how you felt at all. We all lie sometimes, not because we're bad, but because we're human. As you begin to relax, let your shoulders drop and your thoughts drift. Let's gently explore why we lie. No judgment, just quiet reflection. Picture a child around 3 or 4 years old who draws on the wall and says, "Not me," when asked who did it. Their voice is small, eyes wide. They're not being mean, they're just scared. It's their first attempt at shaping the world with words. As we grow, these little lies take on new forms. I love it, we say, when tasting a dish we don't. It's no problem, we whisper, when we're really tired but don't want to say no. These soft lies make life smoother. They make us kinder, more polite, more bearable to each other. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so we soften our truth. We don't want to open up too much, so we wrap our feelings in a more comfortable answer. Lying, in this way, becomes a kind of social glue. It helps us navigate fragile human moments. Sometimes we lie to protect ourselves. Imagine sitting in a job interview, your palms a little sweaty. They ask, "Are you confident under pressure?" You smile and say, "Absolutely," even though you're still learning how to be. That little lie isn't evil. It's a survival instinct. It's a hopeful move, a small push to give yourself a chance. We lie to keep doors open, to protect our opportunities, to manage how we're seen, and sometimes we lie to fit in. Maybe you laugh at a joke that didn't really make you laugh, or pretend to love a movie everyone's obsessed with. These are tiny adjustments we make to blend, to connect, to avoid feeling different. Underneath, it's not about dishonesty. It's about belonging. And then there's the quietest kind of lie, the ones we tell ourselves. I'm over it. This doesn't bother me. I'm happy. We repeat these lines to ourselves, sometimes because we want them to be true, sometimes because we need time before we're ready to face the real feelings underneath. It's not weakness, it's emotional protection, a temporary story we hold on to while we slowly, gently get closer to the truth. But not all lies are gentle. Sometimes lying becomes a pattern, a habit, a shield we hold up so long we forget how to put it down. Some people lie often, not to harm, but because it's how they've learned to move through the world. They're protecting their image, their history, or even a version of themselves they wish they could become. Chronic lying can be heavy. It's like carrying too many versions of yourself, trying to keep each one balanced. And yet, even the most practiced liars have moments of truth. A moment when they say, "I don't know," or "I need help." And in that honesty, something breaks open, something tender, something real. Truth has a strange power. It can feel raw and risky, but also freeing, like taking off armor you didn't realize was so heavy. Life isn't a simple choice between truth and lies. There's a blurry space in between where most of us live. We bend stories, leave parts out, frame events gently. We do it to protect, to preserve, to care. It's human. And at the heart of all of it, the little lies, the big ones, the ones we whisper to ourselves, is a simple need to feel safe, to feel understood, to feel loved. But before the night fully takes over, let's keep drifting a little deeper. If truth can wait, then so can all the questions we carry about ourselves. Sometimes lying isn't just about hiding. It's about shaping. It's like gently sculpting clay, smoothing out parts of our lives that feel too rough, too sharp, too revealing. We don't lie because we want to deceive. We lie because we want to be accepted, understood, seen, but on our terms. And maybe that's not so wrong. Maybe it's part of being soft in a hard world. Think about how often we are expected to be one thing: strong, certain, clear. But most of us feel like a shifting sky, clouds rolling in, sunlight peeking through, then fading again. In that ever-changing weather of our minds, truth and lies become like clouds themselves. Some heavy, some light, some passing through without us even noticing. It's hard to be honest when you're still trying to understand what you feel. So we reach for the closest explanation. Sometimes that's the truth. Sometimes it's a lie that feels safe. There are lies told out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of punishment, fear of not being good enough. These are the quiet, protective lies, the kind that say, I'm okay, even when the heart is tired. And then there are lies told out of habit, so practiced they come out smoother than the truth ever could. Maybe someone grew up being punished harshly for small mistakes. Maybe lying became a survival skill. Over time, that skill becomes automatic, a reflex. The line between truth and fiction gets thinner, but even then, somewhere underneath, there's still a longing to be known, to tell the truth one day. We can't talk about lying without mentioning shame, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the subtle shame that whispers, you're not enough the way you are. That kind of shame teaches us to hide behind jokes, smiles, perfect answers. It tells us that if people really knew us, they wouldn't stay, and so we lie. Not to trick others, but to protect ourselves from what we fear they might think. If they saw the whole picture, the lie becomes a mask, and masks can feel safer than skin. But here's something soft to hold on to. The need to lie usually points to something tender underneath. A wound, a longing, a memory. Lying says, please don't hurt me, or please believe in me, or sometimes just, please let me belong. And when you begin to see lies as quiet cries rather than loud betrayals, something shifts. You start to feel compassion, even for yourself. Think about all the moments in your life where you lied because the truth felt too sharp. Maybe you didn't even know the truth yet. You were still figuring it out. It's okay. You were doing the best you could with the tools you had, and sometimes a lie is one of those tools. Imperfect, but protective. Like a blanket on a cold night. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to get through it. Even in relationships, lies can show up not because love is missing, but because fear is present. Fear of losing someone. Fear of being seen as broken. So, people hide things, not always because they want to deceive, but because they want to preserve something fragile. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it human. Relationships built on deep truth take time, safety, patience, and not everyone gets there right away. There's also the idea of self-deception, one of the most fascinating kinds of lies. That's when we don't just lie to others, but to ourselves. I'm happy. I'm fine on my own. This doesn't affect me. We tell ourselves these things because the real truth might hurt more than we're ready for. But the beautiful thing about self-deception is that it often softens the truth just long enough for us to prepare for it. Like the sun slowly rising, we need that gentle light before facing the full brightness. So if you've ever caught yourself lying to avoid pain, or to protect something, or even just to keep peace, you're not broken. You're not bad. You're a person doing what they can in a world that sometimes asks too much of us. Let that thought settle. Let it soothe. So, as your eyes grow heavier and the world outside your thoughts fades into silence, hold this gentle reminder. Your truth doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. And when the time comes to share it, someone will be there to hear it. Until then, you're enough. Even with your contradictions, even with your soft, unfinished stories. And while you rest here in this quiet space, drifting just between thought and sleep, let's keep unraveling this delicate thread. Why we lie, why we choose certain words over others. It says so much about how deeply we want to be understood or protected. Imagine someone sitting alone in their room, phone in hand, typing out a message, and then erasing it, writing again, then deleting. They're not trying to lie. They're trying to be heard the right way, a way that won't scare the other person off, a way that won't make them seem too needy, too honest, too real. That is a kind of silent lying too, and it's born from care, from wanting to be accepted, not rejected. So many lies aren't even in words. They live in silence, in the things we don't say, a feeling you swallow, a truth you hide behind a smile, a yes when you really mean no. These are the quiet lies we carry day after day, not to cause harm, but to keep things from falling apart. We're always balancing, Truth and peace, honesty and harmony, what we feel and what others can handle, and it's exhausting, isn't it? But when you slow down, like now, and really listen inward, you might find that behind every lie there was once a hope, a wish that the world might be softer, that people might be kinder, that you wouldn't have to explain yourself over and over again just to be met with judgment. The lies we tell, they're often the shape of the world we wish existed. And maybe, just maybe, some lies are little acts of love. A parent saying, it'll be okay, even when they're not sure. A friend saying, I'm just happy you're happy, even if it stings a little. We lie sometimes about us because we don't want others to carry our pain. We lie to spare them, even when we can't spare ourselves. Still, lying has a cost. Every time we tell one, no matter how small, we put a little distance between who we are and who we show the world. A crack forms, and over time, those cracks can add up. That's why telling the truth, even gently, can feel so liberating. It pulls you back to yourself. It reminds you that being real, even a little messy, even a little unsure, is still enough. But don't worry if you're not there yet, if you're still untangling what's true from what's comfortable. That's okay. Healing doesn't rush. Truth doesn't demand to be shouted. It arrives softly when you're ready. Like this moment now, calm, slow, no pressure. Even the brain understands lying. Studies show that every time we lie, especially about emotional things, our bodies react. A tiny increase in stress, heart rate, mental effort. It's as if our own biology prefers honesty. But it also understands why we lie. It adapts, learns, tries to keep us safe. Our minds are not against us. They're just trying to protect the softest parts of us. Maybe lying isn't about being dishonest. Maybe it's about being human in a world that sometimes doesn't reward truth. Think about all the systems we live in, school, work, relationships, all the roles we play. Sometimes honesty doesn't fit the role. So we edit, filter, blur, and the more we blur, the easier it becomes to forget where the line even was. And yet, in the stillness, in the quiet of your own mind, you know, deep down, you always know what's real. The truth waits patiently for you to come back to it. It never rushes. It never judges. It just waits. So take your time as you lay here, safe, with nothing expected of you, no questions to answer, no lies to keep track of. You can just breathe. No masks, no roles, just you. In this space, you don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to perform. You don't even have to be sure. You just have to be. And maybe being isn't so simple after all. Maybe that's why we lie too, not just to others, but to ourselves. Tiny lies we whisper in our own heads. I'm fine. It's not a big deal. I don't care. But you do care. You always did. That's why it hurts. That's why it lingers. Sometimes The biggest lie we tell is pretending something didn't matter, just so we can move on, just so we don't have to sit in the ache of it. But the heart knows, even if the mind tries to tuck it away, it knows what was lost, what was missed, what was never said. And yet, it's okay. You're not broken because you've lied. You're not fake. You're not bad. You're just trying, trying to get through like everyone else. Sometimes lying is just surviving. Sometimes it's just making it to the next moment without falling apart. What's beautiful, though, is that the truth never disappears. It just waits in quiet corners of us, ready to be heard when we're ready. Not to punish us, not to shame us, just to free us. There's something almost poetic about the way we lie. Not the big, loud lies that shake worlds, but the small, soft ones. The ones we tell ourselves just to make it through the day. Think about how often you've smiled and said, "I'm fine," when your chest felt heavy, or nodded along in conversation, pretending to agree just to avoid conflict, or told someone, "Don't worry about it," when really you did worry more than they could ever guess. These aren't grand manipulations. They're not meant to hurt anyone. They're just small shields and tiny acts of emotional survival in a world that often feels too sharp. And the more we do it, the more it becomes a habit, a second skin we wear without noticing. But every so often, in a moment of stillness, you might feel that tug, that quiet ache inside you that wonders who you really are beneath all the masks. And that's where the truth waits, not to punish you, but to welcome you back to yourself. Because the truth, when met gently, is never cruel. It's simply what is. And sometimes that's all we need. To sit with what is without judgment, without urgency, without needing to fix or explain, just to be. So much of lying is born from fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being abandoned. And so we reshape our stories. We round off the rough edges. We say what's expected, not what's real. But deep down, most of us long for a space where we can just be messy. Be honest. Be human. Because honesty, in its purest form, is connection. It's saying, "This is me, not perfect, not always right, but real." And isn't that what we all crave in the end? To be seen fully and still loved. Yet we're taught early on that some truths make people uncomfortable, that speaking our feelings too loudly might drive people away. So we learn to edit ourselves, to package our emotions in more palatable ways. And over time, we forget what unfiltered truth even sounds like. But here, in this quiet moment, you don't need to filter anything. You don't need to impress anyone. There's no audience, just you and the softness of your own breath. You're safe here, safe to let the mask slip a little, safe to feel whatever rises, even if you don't have words for it yet. Just feel, breathe, set it down. You don't have to carry everything tonight. And what about the lies we inherit? The ones passed down through family, culture, society. The ones that tell us who we should be, how we should feel, what we should want. Those lies run deep. They shape our choices before we even realize it. Maybe you were told to always smile, no matter how you feel, or to be strong, even when you're breaking, or to never make a scene, even when your heart is screaming. These inherited lies, they're heavy, but recognizing them is the first step toward setting them down. Because the truth doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need permission. It's always been there, waiting, quietly, patiently. And the more you return to it, the more you begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So maybe the goal isn't to never lie again. Maybe it's simply to lie a little less, to speak a little more gently, more honestly, to create spaces in relationships, in yourself, where truth feels safe. And when you slip, because you will, don't shame yourself. Just notice. Rather, try again. Growth isn't about perfection. It's about returning to who you are over and over, with kindness, with patience, with love. Even the lies you've told, they're not the end of your story. They're part of your becoming. They're how you learned, how you coped, how you tried to protect what mattered most. And that's not something to hate. It's something to understand. Because only through understanding do we ever truly heal. So now, as your eyes grow heavy and your breath deepens, just know you are not broken. You are unfolding like pages in a book, like light through a crack. And the truth, your truth, it's not something you have to fight for. It's something you come home to night after night, gently, quietly, just like this. And maybe that's the quiet miracle of being human. That even when we lie, even when we hide, some part of us still longs to be known, to be touched, not just physically, but emotionally, to be felt and understood without having to explain ourselves. There's something so intimate about being known like that. No lies, no roles, just the raw, simple truth of who you are, your fears, your hopes, your small, everyday struggles. That's all anyone really wants, to say, here I am, and to hear in return, I see you, and you're still enough. But that kind of honesty takes courage. Not the loud kind, the soft kind. The kind that quietly shows up when no one's watching. The kind that says, even if it's hard, I want to live honestly. And maybe you're not there yet. That's okay. Some days we lie without thinking. Some days we choose peace over truth. That doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. All of this, all of it, is part of the journey back to yourself. But sometimes we lie, not because we're hiding something, but because we want to be loved. A child who breaks a glass might say they didn't, not out of malice, but because they're afraid of disappointing their parent. At the core, The fear of losing love or acceptance can be one of the deepest motives behind a lie. Because how do you speak the truth if you're not sure someone will still love you after you do? It's curious how we often say we want the truth, and yet we punish people when they give it to us. That's where silence grows between couples, where pauses live between friends, where a smile hides real sadness. Lies don't always enter with drama. Often they slip into our daily speech like whispers unnoticed. Sometimes we lie to protect others. You might tell a friend they look fine, even if they don't, not to deceive, but to offer comfort, or say I'm okay when you're not, just to avoid becoming a burden. These aren't grand manipulations. They're soft lies, lies of kindness, of fatigue, of wanting to keep the peace. But over time, even gentle lies can pile up like dust in a quiet room. And then there are lies we tell ourselves. These are the most powerful. We lie to believe we're still in control. We lie to think we're happy when we're not. We convince ourselves we'll start tomorrow, that we're not scared, that everything's fine, just a little messy. These self-deceptions aren't failures. They're survival. It's the brain's way of giving us just enough comfort to keep going. Think about how often people say, I'm just tired, when really they're overwhelmed, lost, or quietly grieving something they can't name. It's easier to call it fatigue than to unravel the weight behind it. And what about identity? Sometimes we lie not just to protect how others see us, but to protect how we see ourselves. A man who cheats on his partner might say it just happened, because admitting full responsibility would shatter the image he has of himself. A person who fails might say they never really tried, because it's less painful than admitting they weren't good enough. We shape reality with these lies, not to hurt the truth, but to soften its edges. Lying is a human thing. It's not just in our words, it's in our hesitations, our tone, even in what we don't say. Every silence has a story. Every avoidance holds a secret. Every "it's fine" can hide a world. And when we lie, often we are simply trying to protect something, a dream, a relationship, a memory, a piece of ourselves that feels too fragile to expose. Sometimes the most powerful lies are the ones we're not even aware of. Now, just breathe, let everything else go. You don't need to fix anything tonight. Not your past, not your thoughts, not even your truths. You can rest. You are safe. You are seen. And most of all, you are allowed to simply be. Good night.